Hey friends, so this might sound like it's a confusing message, but it's really not, I promise, and by the end of this video, this will all make sense, okay? So, let's get right into it. We all have things that we want to accomplish and achieve in life, or at least, I hope so. And often, we will find ourselves thinking about those things, figuring out what we want, setting goals, making plans, you name it. The goal may be something like a better job with more pay, or a more rewarding career that we know would be fulfilling for us. Or it might be to have a healthy, loving relationship with the perfect person who really gets you and loves you the same way that you love them. Or maybe your goal is to lose weight, or get in better shape, or to train enough where you can complete the toughest hike in America, which is Angel's Landing at Zion National Park in Utah, by the way. Whatever the thing is that you want to accomplish, you probably have an idea of what you need to do to get there, and where and when you need to put in the work. But sometimes we will decide on a goal, we will make plans around it, we will make lists, we will do all of the things to prepare, we will take steps towards it, we will put in some of the work, but we forget one very important thing. And it's, of course, in the last legs of the race, so to speak, we fail to prepare ourselves for what happens when we get to the finish line, when we actually meet the goal. We don't know what to do once we get there. And that's exactly what this video is about, making sure that we do all of the work. Yes, all of it, so that we aren't unprepared when the day that we actually get it done arrives. I'll give you a real-life example to make this super easy to understand. We probably all know someone who is like the person I'm about to describe. Or hell, maybe some of you watching are this person. Anyway, let's call our pretend person Jane. So, Jane is someone who seems to have terrible luck in relationships. She always tends to find problematic people to involve herself with. And when I say problematic, I don't mean in insignificant ways like they constantly eat the last piece of cheese in the house or forget to take the trash out. I'm talking about someone who is not nice to her, or abusive, or takes advantage of her. She doesn't understand why, and it's frustrating because all she wants is to have a healthy relationship with someone that is kind to her and treats her well, and that she feels like she can trust. A relationship where there isn't constant drama, either real or manufactured. So when she's setting a goal in this department, that might be specifically what she is asking for. Someone who's not a jerk. Yet, that seems to be what she keeps attracting anyway. Why do you suppose that is? Is it because Jane just truly does have bad luck and all these people just keep coming along in her path? Does she have a sign on her shirt that says, "I am a rehabilitation center for poorly raised adults," or something? Is it all of these other people, or could it be something that Jane herself is doing without even realizing it? I'll start out by saying that when we come around to this question, when we begin to ask ourselves things like, why does this keep happening to me? That is actually a good thing. You've arrived at a watershed moment, and now that you have, you can't just stop there. The next part is figuring out that why. And it's going to be likely the most difficult part of the exercise. It's going to involve asking yourself a lot of questions. It's going to require you to be honest with yourself. And it's going to require you to, more than likely, make some changes. So, with that said, excuse me, let's say that Jane goes through all of this and figures out that the reason she kept attracting the people she was attracting is because she has low self-esteem. She doesn't value herself very highly, and as such, she doesn't feel like she deserves respectful and healthy relationships. And perhaps she also figures out that she saw a lot of poor examples of relationships growing up or somewhere in the past. So she figures out that she doesn't actually know what a healthy relationship even looks like, never mind how to have one. That last scenario is one of those comments that people will often say, really? I mean, if you saw, say, your parents constantly fighting and one parent being abusive to the other, wouldn't you purposely not try to duplicate that in your own life or your own relationships? In theory, yes, and that makes a lot of sense, but sadly, in reality, that is not the case very often. A lot of people see unhealthy things growing up and despite vowing to themselves never be that way, they end up exactly that way because it's familiar, because it can be a reenactment of childhood trauma. And sometimes in adulthood, they will meet someone who they feel like they have this instant chemistry with, but what they are actually feeling is a familiarity. They just don't know it yet. Feelings like that can be incredibly powerful, but also incredibly terrible and steering you in the wrong direction. So, going back to Jane, now that she's done all this work to figure out what the problem is, it's time to work through issues and fix it so that the next relationship doesn't play out like Groundhog Day, minus Punxsutawney Phil. Let's say that she does do that. She stays single for a while, she works on her self-esteem and whatever other things were holding her back. She begins to feel more confident. She puts in some good boundaries in place, and she knows what is and is absolutely not acceptable to her in her relationships. But she's also feeling lonely. Despite making progress in many areas, that feeling that being alone makes her somehow less than other people won't go away. She misses companionship. Then she goes out on a date with someone nice who checks all her boxes, and she feels pretty good about this person, so she agrees to see them again and does several times. But the whole time, something feels off. They aren't at all the typical type she goes for. They seem stable and treat her well, and at first Jane likes it, but she just can't seem to shake the feeling that something is just not right. And she realizes that there's no drama at all in this relationship either, and even if she doesn't use this exact word, she may feel like the relationship is, well, boring. So she breaks it off with this person, and a couple weeks later, Jane goes back on another date and finds someone else that does feel more like her type. And there it is. She asked for a healthy, drama-free relationship, and she got that, but at the end of the day, she rejected it. She rejected something new and different because it didn't feel familiar. In other words, she really wasn't ready for what she was asking for. Not to pick on Jane here, but this kind of behavior is a lot more common than you think, because the truth is that sometimes we say we want change. We say it loud. We write it down. We tell other people, but we really don't want that. What we want is comfort. And you cannot have both change and comfort at the same time. Comfort is, by its very nature, the enemy of change. So, if you make a commitment to change, and you are certain that you are ready to do it, you've got to forget about comfort. You have to forget about the old way. Otherwise, when you reach the goal, you're not going to be ready. And friends, the reason that so many people choose comfortable things and comfortable people, so to speak, even when they know it's not the right choice or good for them, is because it's familiar. You don't have to do the work. And we live in a society where everyone is looking for a life hack or a shortcut or some magic potion that can just solve all your problems and instantly change you into the most perfect version of yourself. And when you purchase the $19.99 add-on, you can even become joyful at doing laundry and dishes. I hate to say this, but while there are tons of life hacks out there that are actually useful and worth their keystrokes in gold, when it comes to making changes in your life, there is none that actually works and keeps working better than this one, which I'm going to give you for free right now. I didn't make this up. This is actually something that was first said by American poet Robert Frost in his vastly underrated work, A Servant to Servants. And that is, the best way out is always through. You'll notice that isn't actually a life hack at all, but it is a truth that I think we forget about way too often. Shortcuts or hacks are great for a lot of tasks, but for your mental health and your well-being and your overall satisfaction with your life, not so much. Taking the long route is always going to be your best choice there because it gives you time and space that you need to work through your issues. It gets you ready so that when you get to the goal, to the finish line, you should be prepared and ready to do what this video's thumbnail tells you to do. You should be ready to receive that thing that you asked for because it's here. And you can't let things like bad habits and insecurity and fear take all that work you did to get here away and flush it down the toilet by continuing to make the same mistakes and repeat the same patterns that you already said you didn't want to continue. Setting yourself up to fail is something that we do as humans so often that sometimes we don't even know we're doing it. Our subconscious is great at distracting you when fear is telling you that it should. That's the main contributor to forgetting your hiking shoes when you drove 3 hours to that mountain you wanted to climb, or forgetting your pencil the day of an important test. We generally don't do this on purpose, of course, but something that is a bit of a downside of the human condition is that sometimes we are notoriously bad at finishing the things that we start. But let me say this, and it might sound like a bitter pill to swallow, but the sooner that you do it, the sooner that you will see that it's the absolute truth. Ask me how I know. Those things you don't change, or those improvements that you don't make because you aren't ready, those mistakes that you made even though you knew better, those are all on you. Your life is the way that it is because of you. Not your boss, your family, your spouse, your cat, your neighbor's mailman, the Girl Scouts, or the phases of the moon. You. You are in control of a ton more things than you probably even realize or think. And since you're in charge, you decide what stays and what goes, what's in and what's out, what's done and what's next. If you don't like your options, you change them. I know this sounds simple, but listen, so many of the things that hold us back from making changes that are good or necessary for us are simple, but we overcomplicate them because that's just what we do. It's BS we create in the form of excuses or limiting our belief in ourselves or in listening to other people who think that they know better than we do about what we need. Whatever it is, it's BS from them too, and then we turn and make it our BS, adding to what we were already thinking, and we take it all and bake it together into a nice pie, just like the one in the book and movie The Help. If you know, you know. Eventually, all BS gets tiring, and that right there, that's the moment you've been waiting for. The moment you become tired of your own BS, friends. That is the most transformative time of your life. That's when real change enters the building. Make sure you're ready for all that comes along with it. I promise you that the effort will be 100% worth it. That's all I've got for you this week. I'll be back next week with another priority message. Until then, take good care of yourselves. Bye.